And let's go to our deck. Somewhere here we were here. Yeah, this we are done. Okay, great. So I think we were here yesterday. All right, guys, welcome back to the session. Sunday, 3 p.m. And we are right now moving forward since yesterday on a greater understanding with respect to a detailed open discussion kind of thing on how do we actually approach in reality the problem of beginning the solution for any project. Yeah. Now, your so-called any project consists of stakeholders. It consists of the as-is inventory, documentations, process maps, and this is what comes as an input, right? And then as in processing media, right? We use our methodology and approach for any business situation. Yeah, we typically engage with a process approach and a methodology. Is that what we have understanding and rolling through since yesterday? Okay, so I've given you like a large universe where you know that okay, what is the typical process to go ahead, what is the inputs, what's the output, what do we use in between from an approach or methodology point of view, so that we are able to process the right input and come out with the output, right? That's the kind of a flow charting which we are doing. So it's more of a common open discussion for you to get a clear understanding on how do we trigger the needful in the system. Now listen, every project is going to be different. Okay, so if you say our project is determined primarily by 10 top parameters, which is, let's say, stakeholders, as-is inventory, availability of stakeholders for discussions, you being able to extract the needful from the as-is part in order to conceive what is that you want to prepare as a for the fit gap analysis with stakeholders, etc. Now these parameters and attributes, guys, is going to be very, very different for different projects. Whereas in some project, some attributes could be very useful, and in the other ones, they may not be, so useful for the simple reason that they are not equipped with the right information, enough information for you to use that. So the game plan of a business analyst in a project is often a dynamic mix of successes and failures, right? Which is in between, which is dotted by a lot of assumptions and risks, and what kind of stakeholders he or she gets. Now, a couple of things are very clear. I think you can simply stand up and tell me that, guys, that for example, stakeholders holds the key. So what are those parameters which actually hold the key? Is it that if there are unwilling stakeholders, and in that case you are absolutely bound to be screwed up? Is that the case? Maybe no. There are high chances that your project success will be is generally determined by the amount of alignment that you have created with your stakeholders. Yeah, it is true, but that doesn't mean that if the alignment is not there, then it's bound to lead to a failure. Okay, all right. Now with that thing, I will let you read this slide for a minute, digest it, and then we can start the discussions on it. Yeah, this is about documenting and confirming elicitation results. Okay. All right. So, all right. Again, let me be clear. Which stage are we on? Till yesterday, we have run through at least few rounds of elicitations, right? And now, sometimes, I'll tell you what, much more than important, much more than elicitation of requirement is documenting and confirming the elicitation results. Yeah. And the reason is very simple. You may get elicitations, about requirements from multiple stakeholders. And obviously, let's not, guys, kid ourselves when we say that, okay, every requirement is extremely significant and it's greatly significantly important to influence the solution perspective, because it's all going to lead to a dramatically large value proposition. Let's not kid ourselves, that may not be correct, because each stakeholder may have its very, very specifically different intentions, right, to give those requirements. Now, once you have run through a couple of rounds and generated requirements, it's very important for you to now stop, document all requirements, and confirm whether the elicitation results are good, bad, or ugly. What are elicitation results? You started off the elicitation exercise with a certain objective, right? Objective was clear, that we have to generate the right requirements in the as much as the final shape that they are, so that we can directly plug them into our BRD and give a walkthrough to the IT teams, which confirm that, hey, the requirements that you have built now give a very clear indicative pattern of what software product we have to eventually build up. And in this case of Mumbai Communication, it's where you may not have too much of an IT team because there's not much to do. But yes, of course, there are, maybe there are a couple of, definitely there are a couple of hardwares, upgrades, etc., which need to be done. That's point number one. There is some definite amount of functional and technical work on part of the IT teams to, explore that which way, the process of the to be process has to be now finally done, which interfaces have to be collapsed, which have to be now newly institutionalized, right? And we need to plug in probably absolutely new CRM system. I don't know what you guys are thinking about the back-end ERP system, because I haven't given you any indication that there is a very, very proper ERP system for Mumbai Communication. I don't know whether you want to implement that. So some smart cookie amongst you may say that I think Mumbai Communication, by the scale and volume of what they do today, and the scale and volume to which they want to ramp up tomorrow, all right, somebody amongst you may think that they will definitely need a very strong ERP system, right? Because, well, order to cash scenarios, procure to pay scenario, budget to report scenario, HR scenarios, all those scenarios are to be concluded in form of a configuration in. So that, I don't know what's the shaky part today. Maybe if you're going to make Mumbai Communication undergo such a big transformation, I think you may like to give it a thought that when I'm trying to create a new front end in form of a new CRM system, am I going to create a equally good back end as well? Okay, food for thought for all of you. All right. So what did we do here, guys? Step one, document the results of focus groups, interviews, surveys, questionnaires, techniques. We did everything to get the requirements from the customer's perspective. We need to create a report documenting the findings. Yep, findings from where? From document analysis. Step one came out as an output because you had interactions with your stakeholders. Step two came out because you are documenting the findings which you did from as-is documents analysis. So the plethora of documents which you were given by the client to you, which had its historical past, the traces and lineage of all the changes that they have done before in the system about all the different business processes. What was the outcome of that? Did it fit well into post go live, or the business has come out with repetitive changes now because to suit the business conditions, whether it is pertaining to requirement from a business use case or business rules? I don't know. There could be anything. So you need to analyze all that and document your final. Sorry. And document your findings from as is analysis. So as much as is dependent on your interaction with the users, as much as is dependent on your self analysis from all the documentation that you can get from them. Okay, so the activities runs both ways, guys. No, it's okay, guys. I have muted all now. I have muted all, so it's okay. Yeah, all right. So, okay. Is there any other query? Oh, that's cool, Imangi. Thanks, you mentioned it up. Okay, perfect, great. Okay, good. We are on to a good start today. So let's continue that. Okay. Okay. So step one, thanks to your worthy stakeholders. Step two, thanks to yourself. Because guys, many times the circle is complete only after you run it both ways. One, half the circle from stakeholders perspective or user side, another half from your self analysis of the documentations. All right, good. So let's complete the circle and move to step number 3, where we have established a tracking mechanism to document, monitor, and resolve problems that occur during business analysis. So what is that? Nothing special. It's just an operational dashboard. So while you were going through this whole gamut of activities, right? One day one stakeholder said, "Hey, you know what, Imangi? I think it may not work this way." The other day he said, "You know what? It actually will work this way." The third day he said, "You know what, honey? I think we need to create a hybrid of both. We need to bring 2-3 different things perspective, because I don't think data upload happens that way. It's not smooth. My user will have to put an effort. I don't want that. I want you to automate that thing. Okay, so please talk to your IT team. Get back to me tomorrow." So what we are doing now is fast forward. The final solution consists of creating a new set of interfaces, because we are collapsing the manual interfaces which are there till now. We are putting in automated interfaces. Data will come in. Extraction, transformation, and loading of the data from the legacy system into the mainline ERP system will happen. It will be like a batch job which is running every night. By the time morning my users come in, we will have definite access to all the data which will be now sitting in our ERP databases. Probably one of the possible discussions which may happen between stakeholders and yourself, Imangi. So when this was being done, when Imangi was doing all this portion of activities and tasks with the users, she created a small operational dashboard. Why? Because to create a trace that what led to the development of a final solution which was a hybrid of couple of components. Yeah. So she created a tracking mechanism because she wanted to document, she wanted to monitor and resolve the various queries which kept coming from the stakeholders. Now, as she resolved that, she put up all the final solutions scattered here and there on a particular small document or a dashboard or a mechanism, whatever, because she established it as a tracking mechanism to address the queries of the stakeholders during requirement elicitation. So make sure you do that, guys, because after that you're finalizing requirements and high level results. A lot of stakeholders may come back and say, "Well, that's not the way we discussed, Himangi. We think we have a very different connotation about it. I think the whole perspective has changed. Goodness me, you have actually shifted the paradigm." Imagine this happening when you're finalizing requirements. Big bad idea. What am I trying to hint at, guys? I'm trying to hint at the fact that stakeholders can be a very different animal than what you're thinking as in your mind. I would like to use the word, but the fact is that sometimes you need to tame this kind of an animal by keeping a regular monitoring in check, publishing the outcomes so that there's no going back. What's signed off is signed off. For heaven's sake, if you don't do that, you'll realize that one fine morning, all the understandings that you had have somehow got reverted. And the stakeholders are in no mood absolutely to sign off what you have so-called finalized with them. This will be your viewpoint, not theirs. Track the viewpoints in between the journey plan. Leave enough documentations, traces, publications to make sure that everybody's in sync, and that sync kind of a thing carries on. It sustains itself. It just doesn't dissolve beyond the horizon. Safeguard techniques, guys. Safeguard techniques. Yeah. I've learned it obviously over the long periods of burning my hands myself a couple of times, and then I realized that you can't take anybody on the face value. Stakeholders is a definition. Users is a definition. But behind that is actually the personality of the person which determines the definition. So you need to determine this as a definition for each one of them, how it applies by looking at the very nature, the kind of, maturity of the knowledge of the systems and processes that that particular user or stakeholder has, and then you will define them as great stakeholders, above average, average, less than average. And then you will know whom you can rely on and whom you can't. And hence, you will not get surprises. Okay? Perfect. Okay? And then when this stuff is happening, guys, don't think step one has already led to the finalization of requirements. Requirement discussion is an evolving iteration method. Okay, so there may not be a typical fine morning where you realize that everything is finalized and you can sign off. There will still be continuations of discussion in terms of how we can improve the requirements so that you achieve more optimum results. You never know. So believe in the iterative nature of your forthcoming work, which is called business analysis. Okay, and hence that's why the fourth step is there deliberately. I put it saying conduct stakeholder interviews to determine what is being discussed, what is stated, and keep confirming the requirements. Okay. All right, fantastic. So coming back from the last step on the previous slide where I said believe in the iterative and continually evolving nature of requirements. Why? Why are these situations where some requirements may continue to evolve? It's a question to you guys. Give me a quick pointers, all of you. Why do you think some requirements continue to evolve all the time? Okay, somebody has said due to new business rules. I'll agreed. But new business rules don't just pop in through the roof, right? So business rules are defined, and it's like a governing body, man. For example, for all the banks, that's RBI, right? So RBI determines what are the governing principles and rules, right? That happens once a year, once, twice a year, etc. I'm saying at any point of time, the way you are sitting today with your stakeholders, why some things may continue to evolve. And I think I like the other suggestion which says lack of clarity among the stakeholders. So that's important, guys, that there's a lack of clarity among them. It's actually one of the more common reasons why seemingly everything looks fine, but your requirements don't get finalized. If you ask the stakeholders, they say, well, we are pretty clear about things. If you really ask them why there's a delay in the requirement perspective, still, they won't have an answer. So where we are in a situation, guys, because that eventually will impact us and nobody else, right? Because your project manager is going to be sitting on your head, telling you, reminding you of the deadlines, and then you'll be required to respond to that. Definitely, you are supposed to respond to that. So the concerns of the project manager, which are obviously significant concerns, because they relate to the schedule of the project, right, which is getting delayed somehow thanks to you or to the lack of clarity among your stakeholders. Honestly, who cares, man? I just need a finalized BRD from you, duly signed off. Sometimes this may happen. So what is the mitigation for that? Well, lack of clarity is something which you knew about in the last couple of weeks, right? So what did you do about it? I was smart. I escalated. I brought it up in weekly meetings to say that, guys, these particular requirements are fast exceeding their designated time of discussions and finalization. And one of the reasons is that it's not lack of information, it's not lack of continual connect between me and stakeholders. It's somewhere that we don't see maybe some kind of a final decision happening. So be politically correct, be polite, be democratic, right? Don't point out that, these three fools sitting out there don't have a clarity regarding those requirements, and, God's sake, I don't know when it's going to get finalized. You are after all the BA, you are the facilitator, right, between all of them. You are the one who's holding the ecosystem together. So please be responsible enough to maintain it that way. Okay. But you need to publish, guys. You need to publish somewhere in the early weeks that there's a potential threat of red flag of these particular requirements of this area may not getting finalized. Okay. So you know what happens? This business sponsor notices that thanks to the fact that you publish this in the weekly report of the project, and he designates, you remember you are working with Rajesh right now, right? Who's Rajesh? Rajesh is the business analyst from Mumbai communication side. So folks like Rajesh, who are also BAs, who have been designated on the project because, it's a large project and you need a counterpart from the client organization side. So the business sponsor is able to, kind of direct Rajesh to make sure that you definitely get all the information and help and cooperation from those particular stakeholders where some of the finalizations are not happening. Yeah. So, so make sure that you give a right heads up and don't be feel worried about it. You should be more worried, obviously, because your project is getting impacted. Things may get delayed. Project cost may overshoot. Do you want to take all that on your head? No, you can't, right? So that's why I'm saying escalating, because 2, 3, 4 stakeholders are not really up to their mark. They are not able to bring forward the situation right enough. Escalate. Okay, let's see what else is there. So somebody says change in market situation, which is absolutely right. Market is very dynamic, guys, these days. So someone wants you is bringing out a very important point, and I'll tell you why. Change of market conditions, situations will change the situation that you're working on, right? It'll change the requirement. At least it'll impact the requirements. But I'll tell you why this point is so critically important. Who will bring it out? It's you who's supposed to bring it out. Because RBI giving out a direction to change certain business rules, the way banks operate, is probably once in a year, and it's a fully formal published business rule change. But as Sumangal says, it's change of market situation, but who's going to track it? You are supposed to be tracking the macro and the micro elements of the particular domain or market in which your clients are operating, so that at due point of time, for any small change in any particular aspect which may influence the outcome of your requirements, yeah, you are supposed to bring it up. So what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to continually track the market situation, and then from there, see that if there is a direct outcome or impact on your requirement. If true, you are the owner, you are the responsible guy to do the same. So that's a very good point, because it helps me to make you cautious. That don't think that it's because the stakeholders are fool enough not to able to validate or finalize certain requirement, etc., or they are just dilly-dallying because they don't have clarity among themselves itself, or you'll wait on to some governance body like RBI, to notify you, because a large mass of changes which will be due to the fact that the business conditions have changed so subtly that nobody got to know, but you are supposed to know. You are the BA. Okay, and then somebody has suggested change of customer requirements, yeah, which is pretty very, very true. So just like the fact the market conditions may change, which is highly dynamic. Similarly, guys, again a very important point, your customer preferences may change. And if you look back, let me tell you very honestly that all those Fortune Finder companies who have doubly gotten out of business, only did that because they were not curious enough to know how their customer requirements may be changing. Any comments at this point? So customer requirements is fine. Feedback from customers is again taken in the same way. Improper mapping of requirements from as is to be. Well, you know what, Himangi? When you say improper mapping, honestly, when you guys were exploring as is, it followed a very systematically structured way of the next step, which was finding the gaps, and which took you to the next step to give the high level solution for fulfilling those gaps, and that's what your 2B is. So mapping from as is to 2B, I think is a little broad-based statement. I think the other reasons that you guys gave are very close to what happens in a real-time situation, and keeps making the fact that your requirements only grow. Okay, and okay, Udit says maybe because of changing needs. Yeah, okay. Yeah, but Udit, this is fine. I mean, typically it doesn't really happen that way that, you did an entire discussion with stakeholders on mappings, as is 2B's gap analysis. And certainly, it happens that, okay, the need has changed. So these so-called needs are first discussed and structured for a medium to long-term perspective. Only then we start the right discussions, because we know that this need has a potential to become a requirement. Okay, so Danish has given a good reason called stakeholders alliance issue. Yeah. So alliance, guys, is a very, very key point. Okay, which Danish has brought it up. So thanks for that, Danish. So alliance is because of the multiplicity of vendors, service providers, contractors, yeah, and so on, which are just names for external support that your client needs to run its own system, right? So the fact is that client has made it very clear that I'm not going to throw all the project component works with a single vendor. So I'm going to let Accenture do the designing and TCS do the build and test part, and now I'm going to let the Infosys do the post-production support. So this is the scenario where stakeholders need to have the right alliance, because your stakeholders are from all those third parties which are supposed to do testing, supposed to do build. They are third parties for license things. There are third parties who are facilitating, for your client to be given, certain very key licenses for a different applications, right? So now imagine the business analyst sitting right in the middle of them. And important thing is that he needs to be in touch with all of them, because those people are definitely thinking singular. They are not thinking of anything beyond today or tomorrow. But you, being a business analyst, must be cautious enough to make sure that to know that only unless the right alliance is stuck and all the stakeholders and third parties are in complete alignment with each other, only then the common bond of solution thought is running between all of them, and hence all of them now have a common clear idea that, okay, how will the 2B look like? the interfaces which I manage today, how they're going to be, where they're going to be, and who will be managing it, etc. Okay, so all such kind of pointers are key, so that helps to yeah. Okay, so let's go back. So let me tell you guys, what do I think? When does requirements continue to evolve? Ah, okay, I think that slide is somewhere else, but never mind, we'll come to that slide. Okay, all right, fantastic. Guys, till yesterday, we discussed three solution cockpits. Yeah, this is the fourth one. It says, how do we make use of the requirement management and communication areas to ensure that our SA has the right support to finalize the requirement. I'm sorry, BA, not SA, BA. All right. So where are we, guys? Take a check that we are now in the requirement elicitation stage, somewhere with Mumbai Communication stakeholders, part number one. Part number two, we are evolving the requirements, which means the iteration stage is on, which also means, guys, that when you are generating requirements, if you remember very clearly, we discussed the how we will be using those requirements to manage our solution scope. So you will have to manage that, because you can say that, okay, in typical order to cash scenarios, I have new requirements to build up functionalities to do credit check of the customer. Yeah, that's part one. I am seeing that one of the key requirements is find that the goods issue which are done must be automated, shouldn't be manual, right? So I got two requirements here, and this is something which I have to manage or map to our solution scope. Yeah. So you need to keep managing your solution scope in light of all the requirements that are getting finalized and detailed. Because remember, eventually, you have a fixed mandate kind of a work. Okay. So what do you see on the screen, guys, is that in order to manage the solution scope, looking at the emerging requirements, what do I do? Remember, guys, solution scope is very important. You know why? Because if you exceed the solution scope, you're going to be in a scope, because your project manager is going to kill you, telling you that your excessive requirements, have wrecked the budget and the effort estimate, which was originally conceived to deliver the project. And you have a solution scope, right? You know that, okay, from a order to cash scenarios, from procurement to pay scenarios, for financial scenarios, for business intelligence scenarios, I broadly know that what kind of requirements are typically getting up, but the fact is I just need to finalize them. And by the way, I've taken a rough effort estimate for all the builds up and executions of the technical build up and testing, etc. for this project. I know that there is time till next March, so there is a schedule, but it remains only if you stick to the solution scope and don't let the requirements overtake that bridge. Any query at this point of time? Please ask me. Also, guys, so I'm waiting for you to take understanding that at this stage, I now want you to visualize the stages. Okay, so visualize the stage that, okay, the stage that I'm on right now, as Bukhraj explained, that okay, while my elicitations is on, I need to manage my solution scope. So please look at the slide and get to know, get familiar that at this stage, what are your inputs and what are your outputs. Inputs is what you expect to be with you. Output is what is expected out of you. So make sure that you are comfortable with what is happening as an action on the screen right now. What do we have as inputs? We have the requirement kind of basic management plan. We have some solution scope now, knowing that, okay, we don't have to sidestep these boundaries. We, of course, already had the stakeholders' roles, responsibility. We had some requirement discussion going on with stakeholders, and there's some kind of a solution transition which is also being discussed. Solution transition is purely from a resource perspective. So if you're giving a solution to the client, right, in this case, mobile communication, they have to see that what is the transition they have to do, because the solution will force them to make a transition, whether it is for resources, internal employees, or equipment, or hardware, or software. What will get transitioned and why is the key input, which I assume you have already received from your stakeholders. That's what I will think at this stage. And obviously, guys, when I say this stage, you are pretty much ahead in terms of your already your actual project and deliverable, in terms of, because solution scope is something when which you start thinking of when sufficient requirements have hit the horizon and you know them. Okay, so what is expected as an outcome, guys? Here, the what is expected is an approved requirement from the stakeholder side. So clearly, guys, you have an alignment with stakeholders. They have been doing a couple of discussions with the business analysts, right? So then when there's a sign off happening, typically everything has gone well. There's no apparently a large challenge or risk, for any particular situation. Then giving it a benefit of margin of about 10 to 15%, the stakeholders accept the requirements suggested by by the business analyst. Okay, so approved requirement is an output expected, and typically techniques which you may use to manage your solution scope is problem tracking and, most important, baselining. You remember that, right? The potential mitigation tool, weapon, defense mechanism to make sure that you're within the boundary of your project scope. Baselining, right? That's the key thing which you're going to use at this stage to make sure that your requirements are only coming up because and you're clearing and validating, the ones amongst them which are clearly linked to a certain solution approach, right? So, and then, it's not contributing to addendum piece of work which is going to take me beyond baselining. So please baseline, please be cold, brute, regardless, sometime, and package the requirement, in the sense, in the way that, okay, if there is a base, it got contained within baseline, or there's a spillover effect which you want to put into an additional addendum, of requirements which has come up, but that's not covered under the current project contract, and hence you will have to send all such requirements back to the client and tell them that these are additionals, and if they want to be part of the project or this project, then the extra commercial application commercial will be applied to them also. Okay, let's see if there's any query or we can step forward. All right, so we are on to the same thing, guys. Tracks, documenting, and confirming elicitation results. Oh, this we had seen already. Oh, this is done. Okay, so where we were here, right? Okay. Yeah, so Rishabh, there is no as such document for solution scope because it is an understood thing that, see, it's first of all, it's not a deliverable. Okay. It's basically, okay, let me tell you. Okay, have you seen a project contract? That's basically what your likely solution scope was before you came in as a business analyst. So today, as a solution architect, for example, I create solutions for the clients, okay, and I tell them, okay, guys, this is a 1,000 man day project and it will cost you $1 million. And they agree to it. It gets formed into a project contract. Fine. I send the contract to, let's say, you, Rishabh, because you are now the operational lead or project manager who is going to implement this particular thing for the client. Okay. So that is when I handed over the contract to you as the architect of this project. I gave it to you saying, okay, Rishabh, you are the now the delivery guy, operations guy. You got a team of BAs and other things with you. This is what you need to implement. So that time, that contract, whatever it contained, is the solution scope. Fair enough? Stage one. Stage two. And then let's say Danish comes in as a business analyst. So Danish would like to validate now, obviously, and build up all the requirements. So, well, he does his work as a business analyst. While he was evaluating the as and gaps and 2Bs, etc., Danish came across a lot of key requirements which were never contained in the project contract. And if somebody can answer me why? That is because at the time of making the project contract, such detailed business analysis and all that stuff was not done. Was more of a high level solution. The client liked it. We proposed them that this is a 1 year project, it'll cost you maybe $10 million. They were fine about it. But from their side, they kept a small clause. Okay. So stage two. Stage two is when you, sorry, who's the BA here? Danish. Danish went in, explored, and he realized that if we really have to build this project well, okay, I see that there were broad outlines of scope coming from contract, but he has found out that there are, let's say, 10, 15, 20 requirements which are also very, very important and must be included within existing solution scope. All right. But if we include that, it will lead to an addition of 500 man days. Now, from the contract, you're already sitting on 1,000 man days. This means you need an additional component of 500 man days, but all the requirements which can be delivered within 1,000 man days are now baselined. Whatever is extra is beyond baseline. But don't worry, because the client knows that unless we implement all the requirements, the whole of overall solution will not look like the way it is. So 1,000 man days goes into baselining, all additional goes into add-on requirements, which becomes the additional solution scope. So core solution scope 1,000, additional solution scope 600, total scope 1,600 man days. So that is now the change, change which we are now doing to the addendum and as a contract and giving back to the client. Okay, let's see if there is. So Rishabh, is that okay? All right. So Pankaj, solution scope is high level documented in BRD. Yes, of course it is. So guys, remember, while creating the BRD, you will take the right extract from the contract and put it in your BRD, because BRD is now the subsequent document, after the project contract. So you had nothing to do with the project contract. That's what I did with the client. The sales guy did that. When you came in, you started your assessments, etc. And now it has come to the fact that yes, you see that the solution scope is, which was there, the contract is part of your BRD also, but the additional ones has also come in your BRD. So obviously, Pankaj, this additional thing must be into your BRD also, because otherwise, how will you justify that you already have baselined, and this is something which is beyond baselining, because you have to bill it back to the client. But now these additionals which have come in are also part of the contract now. They have been added to the contract as an addendum. So your solution scope is will be reflected in your BRD, but that is going to be for baseline and beyond baseline requirements also. Okay, let's go forward. Okay, so guys, now let's come to enterprise analysis. Yeah, so you want to, okay, you guys want to see a preceding contract to BRD, right? Yeah, I can show you guys some contracts somewhere. That's fine. So remind me, Rishabh, when I'm showing you guys the documents, then make sure that we begin that with the contract. I can show you, yeah, I can show you an SOW. That's fine. Okay. Okay. So, all right. Okay, guys. So where are we now? We are at the start of enterprise analysis. So let's enter this. So why are you entering this cockpit, guys, by the way? Because it applies to your Mumbai communication chapter. Okay, so the case study. So hence this will be likely applicable somewhere. Okay, looks like you have arrived at some kind of high level requirements. Is this also which somewhere might have hit your mind as well? Let me know. I mean, look at it. Look at the creative part, right? Paper use option, for example. Does it make sense here? So Guys, let me get some pings when you are ready to give me your feedback on these suggestions about high level requirement finalizations for Mumbai communications. Okay, so okay guys, just a small what should I call this? High level suggestions from my side towards some of the broader, bigger requirements which you may feel that it's which your Mumbai communication may need. So one suggestion which came from one of the students like you was to expand the current television systems to provide broadcast cable channels as well, which means basically an entry into the cable business. And then on top of that, one of the flexible commercial arrangements which was suggested by one of the students was to create a pay per use option for the consumer for the cable channels. Something like maybe what Tata Sky does today. Somebody suggested, well, the current copper pairing system, the copper wire pairing system um, for the it can be replaced by a fiber optic, which is of course valid. So fiber optics should be the driving force to carry the reflex or the signal strength from the central hubs to the residential and commercial. To the for um, yeah. So the receptivity, so that the receptivity of the customer is probably maintained well. So anyway, some of the suggestions will just begin the thing with. So I think this is what I don't know whether you can discuss this. You may have an opportunity because some of you, a lot of you are yet to receive, still your calls with your stakeholders. So see, I mean, if you can just kind of bounce off these things with them, okay, you may get some recognition of some of these facilitating, pointers for some kind of a broad solution which can be discussed between you and them. Okay, so some other suggestion, guys. High speed fiber based internet services, for commercial and retail consumers. High speed fiber optic based internet service, right? New cellular networks mapped to the latest 4G, 5G, whatever is the current standing of the kind of standing position of the company. Yeah, somebody suggested we should sell some of the telephony, shorter long distance telephones, in some of the certain local markets, certain states of India, for example, because they are not providing the requisite ROI. And even after incorporating the new solution, it won't improve. Yeah. So that was again some of the suggestions. So I mean, from an enterprise perspective, I think these suggestions are good because something reflects into a, kind of a divestiture here. They want somebody wanted to us to divest some telephony stake in certain areas. So these are mixed bag of suggestions. I think these are just triggers for your thoughts, obviously. So, but what I'm trying to say is that in this case, because being a purely business-led case study, your likely discussions on requirements and finalizations and fitting them into solution scopes are going to be something which you are seeing on the slides now. You won't have any kind of a specs to be written obviously for requirements, because this is not a typical kind of a case study on an IT perspective. Okay, continuing ahead, guys, some of the suggestions which came from some of the students was a new front end coupled with the new back end. So at the back end, you have a new enterprise resource planning system. Could be Oracle, could be SAP, could be anything that seamlessly binds all the functions within the company, Mumbai Communication, in terms of its interaction with customer, other systems, financials, etc. And when I say within the company, functions within the company, that often refers to the sales, procurement, financials, business intelligence, customer relationship, and so many other processes which are forming the backbone of the ERP part. Now, whereas the ERP cares for the back end, there is a new front end which is responsible now to bring in the much needed is a much needed front end, I guess, which is required now. So this was, guys, something to give you this was something to give you an idea that, okay, from a system perspective, see, because a lot of requirements which will eventually get built up for Mumbai Communication are going to be derived from process, system, processes, systems, tools, and general business benefits which will arise from a pure business related requirements. Yeah, okay, so that was still here. Okay, we will come back to some other suggestions maybe later, but for now I want to also look into a very, very important activity of your current solution to be developed into a BRD in terms of assumptions and constraints. So I think somebody amongst you had given me a quick indicator, a couple of, I think like last week, just to give kind of a detailed understanding to all of you that what are the likely assumptions and constraints you would like to build in your solution. Okay, and why assumptions? Because you don't have clarity on certain accounts, so you need to go ahead with a certain assumption. And constraints, where you want to clearly suggest that there are certain challenges which you cannot overcome. So the current solution development has to be within certain binding challenges or constraints. Okay, and that is what you want to reflect in your BRD. Okay, suggested assumptions and constraints to all of you. Yeah. Oh, sorry. All right. So you may, I'm not exactly giving you obviously the assumption or constraints that you may like to pick up, but I'm giving you a fair enough indicator that your assumptions and constraints are likely to be amongst 4 factors, which are very high level, but very important. Estimated market strength, which means going by the organic content of the customers available in the market, which you are now targeting to pick up as your market share through the transformation exercise, you will be likely taking an assumption. And it's very simple. Why? Because if you need to show some cost benefit analysis that within a short term to a medium term to a long term span, what is the total current market size? For example, let's talk of high-speed internet customers, right? So today, let's say the total market is worth $100 million, and out of that, the current market shares which are divided amongst different players are X%, Y%, etc. If you target to, if you're targeting to gain a 2 to 3% market share in the next medium term plan, in that case, you'll have to find out what are the add-on contracts from the customer size that you will have to pick up and add on to, the database of your existing, existing database of your high-speed services. So you intend to transform your systems and processes in order to give a output and efficiency which will help you to gain 3% market share. But 3% market share amounts to what kind of a revenue you will be looking forward to, because you need to add that revenue into your subsequent years to show that that is likely going to be a direct benefit from this transformation exercise. And hence, your assumption on the current estimated market strength will be important. Your assumption on how much of market shares that you intend to gain in the subsequent quarters and years is going to be important. So that is a typical assumption which you will take from the with respect to cost benefit analysis. Similarly, you may need to take some assumptions on the current prevailing contracts. So there are unions. For example, I'm assuming there's a union in Mumbai Communication, and that will, your transformation will not go down so easy, guys. So on the people front, as I said, so since you're keeping people as the highest priority, followed by process and followed by tools, etc. On the people front, there's going to be likely a changing scenario of transition where people may have to move out or they may have to be redeployed after making them gain some additional skills. Is your prevailing contracts likely to be reshaped and rediscussed? Likely. But is it an assumption or a constraint? I will take it as a constraint, because if you're thinking that in the to be solution, how much of redeployment of existing employees is going to happen, you will have to overcome the current prevailing union contracts, which probably may debar that. So you're going to quote in your BRD that prevailing union contract is likely going to be a constraint. Okay, then some of the other constraints are going to be existing unlikely regulatory items in your various businesses. So you know which 5 businesses you are dealing with, right? So please make an assumption that on the regulatory, what are likely going to be the regulatory items which are going to be there definitely as a mandate from high-speed internet, from call center business, and from other businesses. So please do some research to put it into BRD that what you think. So I don't want that maybe the exact regulatory items. At least put a few of them so that I know that what is your thought and how you want to use leverage on that to build up your assumption and constraint matrix. Yeah. Similarly, you will have to probably take an assumption on the competitive pricing, because you never know, even post transformation, what competitiveness you want or you think or you hope you may bring in on the Mumbai communication front. Maybe your competitors may be already ahead of that. In that case, your business case will fall flat, because the so-called business benefit that you want to bring in via competitive situations, especially competitive pricing, is not going to happen. In that case, this competitive part will fall flat, and then all the investments done on this transformation exercise will not bear the fruit. And why am I telling you all that is because in your deliverables, you need to bring this profound effect of cost benefit analysis in a very exploratory way. It may not be precise, it may be based on certain assumptions and constraints, but you need to bring it out clearly to have a frank and free open discussion with your stakeholders. So you need to take ballpark figures, obviously, but the fact is that somewhere your business case should look positive. to say the least. Any queries on this slide, guys? Okay, so let me see. A couple of you have written something. So Rishabh says sale of customized plans was one of the suggestions you gave to the sales guys. Okay, so ERP and CRM will change over all structures of the company, of its IT database, base shifting, running company with clients and suppliers will affect company's operations overall, and it's hard to take. Assumption and constraints like ST analysis. Okay, so coming to the main, I think, thought of yours, Danish. Yes, ERP and CRM will change the entire IT architecture of Mumbai Communications. Now, it depends. It depends whether you want to take assumption that there's nothing really wrong from the current existing ERP. I know why you are making this point, because you don't want to go into a very, very long-term implementation plans, obviously, because if you are shifting base from the current ERP to the new ERP, obviously it will become a very, very kind of a large transformation exercise. Now, guys, so as an approach, either you can stick to a complete black and white, which means you can revamp front end, back end, etc., everything, or you may like to restrict your thought processes, more to a front end exercise, and how it will entail bringing in better customer relationships, rather than thinking of that, okay, we will implement a new RP and we'll decommission the previous one. So I think it's a good suggestion by Danish that let's not maybe think that way. So I'm not discouraging you, obviously. If you want to think that way, it's creative enough, it's fine. But if you don't want to do too much research, etc., on the back end part, then let it be. Let the current ERP system be what it is today. Okay, so all right, so we have now come to, you remember we saw this slide yesterday, right? Not this slide, something else, where we talked about functional decomposition. Yeah. Now, guys, I'm giving you now a micro and a macro perspective. Micro perspective is working out the respective requirements with obviously their respective stakeholders, department leads, etc., for Mumbai Communication. But on a larger note, I want to talk about the functional decomposition plan as well. Now, you remember we talked about functional. Functional is the function part, which you say, okay, material management, procurement, sales, distribution, marketing, etc., different areas, or you can call them functions, because that's the functions. These are the functions which the company executes for its customers, right? So you want to break them out. You want to decipher them, because at the functional level, you may not have too much of an insight into what's right and what's wrong. So you want to identify those areas which will get impacted by solution. This means you want to decompose the current functional areas, okay, and see them better under the lens of this transformation exercise. And that is where Danish point comes in very useful, that if we are doing ERP and CRM both, then we have to assess the impact of both those items, right, on all the areas which are going to be impacted. So the list is going to be obviously very long. So if you want to avoid that, maybe you can just stick to CRM, which is the front end for now, and see that, okay, which areas, which functional areas will get impacted because of bringing in a new CRM. Now, why is that important? Because that starts giving shape to the emerging to be organization. So It depends on how much of a transformation quota you want to bring in. If it is limited, then I'll say, okay, you can stick to the approach of modifying the existing systems. If you're doing more than that dies, then I'll say, okay, you are bringing in a transformation, and hence now it's going to be an absolutely new to be for you. So for Mumbai communication, I leave it to you, all of you, whether you want to, do a new to be for Mumbai communication, or you still feel that modification of the existing system will lead to improvement enough. Okay. Continuing with solution activity. I think somebody has asked, who is effective business analyst? Minimum change leads to more output. Sorry, Pankaj, you please explain this, statement of yours. Then, I'll reply to that. Yeah, but what do you mean when you say who is the effective BA? Yeah, so minimum changes in the system or in the process to achieve the best results. Okay. Okay, hang on. Let me first answer what Rishabh is also asking. If you are going to do a IT transformation, how do market strengths, competitive pricing, etc., be a constraint or an assumption? So obviously it is not. It is not here, Rishabh, because you're not doing an IT transformation. You Mumbai communication, except for the fact that yes, CRM system could be a tactical shift in terms of bringing in a new one. Essentially, Mumbai communication is purely a business or solution oriented case study. And market pricing is again likely going to be an assumption from your side, because you are assuming obviously that after the whatever transformation that we do, whether it is going through from networking, from cabling, and from all different other things, right? Eventually you will now become competitive in the market with respect to prices, because today you have a complaint, right, from stakeholders that you guys are expensive, even though the customer feels that your value of services given by your company is not good enough. So now you are assuming that looking at the forecast of the pricing forecast for different services, data services, non-data services, you feel that where you will be able to bring your price point after transformation is going to be within that bracket. So you are assuming, yeah, that competitive pricing will not go too nasty. So it was shown only from a assumption perspective. Yeah, that's why the slide was called assumption and constraint. Okay, so that's how it is. Sorry, now coming back to Pankaj. Pankaj, I understood the minimum change leading to maximum output, but I didn't understand what is the question here. No, Rishabh, you're right actually. See, guys, eventually remember, for everything there's a primary connotation and there's a secondary connotation. In this case, the primary change is from business side, and hence those 4 pointers that assumption constraints are perfectly valid. You have a secondary part which is called IT transformation also, and so obviously assumption constraints, I have given you a sample. So I gave you a sample of 4 assumptions and constraints which I didn't want to miss out in each of your BRDs. And I'm sure you'll be taking more assumptions and publishing it in your BRD. But for now, I just thought that from a primary reason, which is business transformation, what should I show you? what, actually, Rishabh, it's easier to take assumptions and constraints from an IT perspective, but it's more difficult from a business perspective. That's why deliberately I showed you guys some assumption on the business side. Okay, Pankaj, that's fine. You can check out later. Fair enough. Okay, guys, please, coming back to the slide, interface analysis. So this is where I think, Rishabh, your point also comes in handy. That interface analysis is definitely going to be always a part of the IT transformation program. See, this case study is eventually built up because we wanted to bring forward two different cases. One, how business transformation is materialized in your projects, and second, not to miss the bus, how it can be accompanied together by a IT transformation also. So that's why I was primarily focusing on the business transformation. And then, of course, I realized that, okay, in order to bring an IT component here, the most easiest part is obviously their call center or whatever, right? That's where I said, okay, let's bring in a new CRM. But now, remember, it's a big architecture game plan. And in every architecture, there is going to be a mix of business and IT. I don't want to miss the second bus on IT transformation. And that's why I'm trying to discuss something on the interface part also. Because interfaces, I don't know whether I should say that, but guys, one day the word will finish, but trust me, the interfaces and cockroaches will remain here. Cockroaches, because they are indestructible even after a big nuclear war. Interfaces, because they are so commonly dotting the IT landscape, that everything will probably one day, finish, but interfaces will still be there. And hence, I thought that from an IT transformation perspective, let's make more sense to bring in, the interface also along with CRM. Okay, yeah, and that's where we are now sitting on, looking at interfaces as a likely analysis point. Yeah. So I wanted to bring it around, suggesting the journey plan from analysis going forward into 2B. So I thought that, okay, let's cover it up, because journey interface tends to be a little bit of more of an IT topic. But I wanted to give you an understanding so that you guys are aware, how interfaces are created, how they are built, how they are used. Okay, good. So before we enter this part of the story, do I think we probably will take a short break, guys? Yeah. So let's take a break now in 20 minutes, kind of a thing, and then come up back. Okay. Fair enough, guys. Let's take a break now, and I'll talk to you soon. Hey guys, let's be back. Yep. Mic test 1, 2, 3. Let's come back, guys. Yeah. All right. Let's assemble. Let's assemble back. Okay. So here we go. All right. Where are we? Well, after finishing kind of a nice tidy talk between how business and IT perspectives can both apply to a typical project. And honestly, guys, I want to tell you one more thing. I was thinking about it. This query from Rishabh. After that, we took a break. I want to tell you one thing. See, essentially, if you ask me, everything is on a business side. IT is only the enabler. If IT gave you a new CRM system, there's only to enable you to do customer relationship better. But the driving intention, objective, vision, strategy is all from business because it has an original intention to improve the customer relationship part, yeah, from a front end perspective. And to accomplish all that, well, yes, I mean, IT dropped the CRM system and here you go. So what I want to say here is that essentially business is the driver, IT is only the enabler. So for any project, please don't distinguish between it like, okay, this is business related project, this is more IT related project. Because IT will be there maybe in every project or may not be, but business perspective will be there in every single project. And please orient your thought process also strictly from a business perspective. So don't take a shortcut to start thinking about the IT part. Don't do that, please. First, think from a business idea perspective because the strategy, the vision, the as is, the process, everything is going to come to you from the business. IT will come much later. If anyone has a doubt on this statement and it's finding it difficult to digest it, please ask me your query now. So this, I just deliberately brought this topic out because that's the biggest confusion which, a lot of, not just business analysts, anybody remotely concerned with business while he or she is in the IT aspects, always discusses this with me. And I'll tell you, I don't blame it because being in, see, basically enabler is IT, execution is IT, the the day-to-day process is more governed by the IT part. Hence, we tend to get overwhelmed with the IT. But I must tell you guys, as long as possible, please maintain strictly your business window, thinking window open. Because I'm telling you, the qualifying differentiator between a good and an average BA is somebody who can think purely from a business aspects. So you are thinking business because you're thinking either from business objectives purpose, you're thinking from business strategies, you're thinking from business KPIs, you're thinking from business SLAs. So for example, there are two ways to look at everything, right? Let's say there's a business, there's an IT supports business, right? Okay. So you say, you know what, somebody comes to me and says, an IT guy comes to me and says, you know what, yesterday there were three high priority tickets. One was about sales orders failing. One was about invoices for the customers failing. You know what? I corrected the solution, and I prevented those queries from the customers to happen again because I gave them a solution. Yeah. So what did I do? I upheld my IT SLAs. Yeah, and I felt good about it. Great. This is one kind of a person. Another person comes in again from IT, but with a business thought. And let me tell you how it happens. He would tell me, yesterday, since last 2 days, we had three high priority tickets or queries from the users. One was from the sales order part, one was for billing, etc. And we did a root cause analysis. We gave a solution, and you know what we ended up achieving? We ended up achieving, or we ended up preventing the sales order fulfillment of our customers going down. One guy is saying we did the solution to prevent these queries from the users to come up. Another guy says we gave a solution to prevent any business impact being done. And in this case, business impact was that because your sales order was not processing, your order fulfillment ratio of this month was going down, which means if your customer order for your 10 customers order things, you fulfill all of them, you're saying I've achieved 100% customer order fulfillment ratio. Now, because sales order process was in a trouble, it was not working well, and hence orders were failing. But see, one guy is thinking from a business aspect. That's why I'm saying I prevented the business impact to happen. Another guy is thinking purely from IT side. He's saying, guys, I got three high priority problem areas, tickets from user. I solved them. I'm happy. I went home with. This is the differentiating difference between a BA and a good BA. So guys, please tune your thoughts or thinking more from the business aspect. See, it's not for nothing that you're called business analysts, right? That's the idea why we want to discuss this way. Okay, obviously, what is this query? Okay, good. So Pankaj got his thing. Okay, so Rushabh, I think now you got the idea, right? Okay, Pankaj, you also got your idea. Very well, perfect. In fact, Pankaj, I remember your question earlier, and I think I just read Rishabh's question, which was again asking me a very direct situation that how do we differentiate? So that's why I thought that better as usual to take an example. So I hope you guys are good now, and I hope the rest of the guys are also good now in terms of this small trigger that I've given you to think more from a business perspective. Okay. Okay, fantastic. So let's get back to the slides. See, guys, now that's what a good batch is. I would have taken you through this slide saying, okay, interfaces are IT. And prior to that, I told you that, yes, guys, IT and hybrid of IT and business happens to be your generally part of your projects. But unless you would have asked me this sharp shooting query that differentiate exactly between business and IT and how do we start thinking as a business analyst, I wouldn't have been able to give you this example. That's why I say The onus to learn is more in your hands. I'm I'm a good trainer. I have experiences for 15 years. I've worked with some of the most blue chip companies in the globe. I've worked across geographies. So I know a lot about business analysis. I can make it very simple. I can make it very flexible. I can create a lot of examples. Yeah. And I can make you understand. But the onus to drill deeper lies on you. Okay. So that's why I say a good batch ends up creating a lot of learning for all of you. Mm, yeah, Rishabh. So as I understand, so guys, Rishabh is proposing, and I'm sure he's proposing it from the entire batch, that can we do some more distinctions in the coming sessions between business and IT? Yeah, definitely, I think I can do that. And in fact, it's giving me a very good idea that maybe, I can create some, maybe hopefully some sliders, or I can initiate that as part of, maybe a use case or something where, yes, I want to bring out more clear differentiating things between how to think business, how to think IT. Yeah. But please understand, guys, that to think business, you need a business framework, right? Obviously. I mean, to look like Michael Jackson, right? I need the wardrobe and the looks of Michael Jackson. To look like, maybe somebody else, I need to have a framework. Similarly, to think and talk business, you need to have a business framework. And business framework, in this case, comprises of number one, business processes. Number two, business objectives and visions. Number three, any kind of business strategies. So when you say, okay, what is a business strategy? So I'll say, all right, during enterprise analysis, what did you find? You found that as a strategy in Mumbai communications, we need to improve customer, our own competitiveness. We need to improve customer service. We need to enhance the technical expertise of Mumbai communications so that they are able to provide a more precise service to the customer. So these three things, what are these? These are business objectives. So right from beginning, guys, about Mumbai communication, we have been talking business. We have been talking about all the important areas which we think are business objectives and which Mumbai communication stakeholders want us to achieve. They never talked IT to you. Nobody ever will. They all talk to you about their business pain points, etc. Now, as much as you can think business, you can talk in a business terminology, you will relate to any stakeholders across the globe very well. And while keeping in mind that yes, IT is important, but honestly, it is only for some solutioning aspect. Otherwise, your complete grasp, control of the as is completely based on your way to learn, it from a pure business perspective. So IT comes later, man, for heaven's sake. It's just a peripheral. It's part of a packaging. But your core thought, when you say, Mukhraj, what is the way to align with stakeholders? My answer will be, why don't you become a stakeholder? What's the meaning of that? The meaning is that why don't you talk, sense, breathe, live like a stakeholder? And which you will do when you will enter real-time projects. Yeah. And the flexibility and adaptability of anybody amongst you who will tune up faster, to think, to smell and behave like a stakeholder, because you become so much part of the organization, but there's a reason behind it. Because you have done your homework right. Because you have aligned with them on their business objectives and visions, because you understand them as good as they do. That's how your alignment with stakeholders starts. And one of the key crucial differentiating factors why then project after project you are able to achieve success. There are so many ways to do that. How does it happen? Obviously, there has to be a generic reason behind it. And I'll tell you the generic reason is because they are able to overlap and align with stakeholders. And why? Because they talk business. Because any BA who starts tinkering and bringing in IT aspects, probably in the beginning itself is a very bad idea. First of all, because nobody cares about IT. A business doesn't know that the solution is going to come from IT, or it might come from the business perspective itself. So for them, it is more of a solution approach. You don't have to drag IT in between. IT will come in between on its own, because certain solution will be done only via IT because it relates to a software or a hardware proposition. Yep. That is why thinking business is important. And anyway, I mean, yes, we will tune you up more, but I just gave you a very good example just to let you know this is how you can think business. So it's just more, what should I say? Well, it's more of an attitude to think business, right? That's why the guy who came to me and said, all right, I prevented sales order fulfillment from getting affected. That's talking business. Anyway, good. Let's come back to IT, guys. All right, interface analysis. So guys, why we are throwing some more light on interfaces is because this word is full of interfaces. The interface as a word comes in only when there are two different systems who are trying to talk to each other, right? If there are components of the same system, you don't need an interface, right? Because the same system can, within the same system, the components can talk to each other, right? Because there's no translation required, there's no field-to-field mapping required. As such, there's no facilitation required, right? So interface comes in when a different system is talking to a different system. Now, in most of your projects, there will be external systems which are responsible to bring in data. Let me tell you, let's take a finance example. So for a finance institution, having an interface, let's say with the leading organizations of the world, like Bloomberg, for example, which helps you to give them a conversion rate for every currency every day early morning, because those rates are primarily accepted and applicable throughout that day. So having an interface to get in these values and data from Bloomberg into your own systems, you may need a small interface. It's important, yes it is, because your transaction during the day will be dependent on what conversion currency rates have been applicable. And that applicability has come from what Bloomberg has suggested. So there are typically, every morning, what happens is that, like Bloomberg, there are 3-4 other sites. What they do is that they are continually running an, kind of analysis to calculate the currency conversions between the conversion factor between two different currencies. And they recommend their recommendations, they suggest the recommendations, and then typically there are sites which take a blend, an average blend, weighted average, etc., for all these things. And then you can, it depends on you, what kind of algorithm do you want for your own setup, right? So a lot of companies build their own algorithms which takes a blended average, for example, for all these values suggested by Bloomberg and other sites, for example. Yeah, anyways, the answer which I want to give here is that it needs an interface. So interface technique is used to determine the relationship between existing system and the new system. So let's call your existing system as legacy system, new system as 2B system. Now, whatever components of your existing systems you are retaining, right? You're retaining because you see a potentially, I should say, potentially a good use of that system in the 2B state. So you don't want to collapse that, you don't want to decommission that, you don't want to throw it away, right? And in any case, whatever maximum use you can make from the existing system, you will obviously like to retain that. Fair enough, do that then. But in case you're retaining that in your 2B organization, this means you will have to have an interface between your existing legacy system and your new 2B system, part number 1. Okay, so all right. Ouch. All right. Let's see what are your other tasks during your solution activities, guys, for Mumbai communication. Again, broad-based hints and clues is what is being provided to you. Okay. Let's start one by one. Oh, by the way, in your 2B modeling, which you will do for your BRD, please see if you want to retain some interfaces, if you want to build some new interfaces. So you're not obviously going to actually build an interface, just at least from a high level architectural design perspective. If you want to include some interface in your 2B, then you can do that. Take an assumption that, okay, you're utilizing a 2B because it's going to help you in a certain, etc., right? So take an assumption, build it there, but I must see a useful purpose of that interface there. Okay, so, and obviously, guys, if you're going to build new interfaces, what is it? It is directly your requirement, right? Any new build-up is a requirement for you. So if you're going to build interfaces, that's a requirement for you. Okay. All right. So what are your other tasks for your BRD guys? One, data and process flow diagrams. Please do that for as is and to be both, so that I can see that your clarity on as is and to be, number one, is there. Second, and listen, this is going to differ from all of you, because some of you may perceive, it into a more complex system. Some of you may perceive it into a more simple system. In either way, you will have, your diagrams will be resultants of the same. So that's okay. Keep your thinking original and separate. That's fine. Yeah, but please bring all the data and process flow models which you want to bring in. Also, please see if you want to do any data modeling. Again, this is all part of your architecture. In data modeling, in to establish any data structure so the organization can share data throughout the new systems, you can have some data modeling solution in your 2B. Yeah. To monitor the business performance of your new proposed system, please make sure, guys, you have certain targets, metrics, or KPIs, key performance indicators. So I would like to see that in your proposed solution, if you're making process modifications, good. If you're bringing in new interfaces, fine. If you're designing the 2B with new front end, back ends, etc., very good. But then, guys, and plus, of course, on top of that, you are doing all those business changes, okay? You are thinking of making better connectivity. You're thinking of enhanced upgrades systems. You're talking about increasing efficiency from giving a better bandwidth to the customer, right? You're talking about new cabling systems on fiber optics. You're talking about branching out into cabling business because it's a logical addendum to your high-speed internet business. So you have a lot of business suggestions. Please make sure if you're suggesting those practices, then you must accompany that with a certain framework. Yeah. Again, guys, the same point. If you are good BAs, then you must be able to understand and give suggestions vis-a-vis a certain framework. So if you are giving suggestions which are amounting to a certain requirement, please make sure that there is a framework you are proposing. Framework in terms of that my suggestion is going to be occupy which part of my 2B. In the flow diagram, where do I see my new suggestions? What is the impact of them on the preceding system and the succeeding system? What are the business KPIs, IT KPIs, targets, anything that I'm proposing which will be good to monitor and track this particular, improvement that we are bringing in the coming month. So establish a tracking mechanism for your suggestions, improvements, system improvements, process improvements, etc., etc. Okay, and I don't want to give right away because I think I leave it to you to at least do some thinking and put it in your first draft. Okay, while you will assess the functional requirement, guys, I want you to assess the non-functional requirements also. And I don't have to tell you that because your requirements kitty is consisting of functional requirements, non-functional and transition requirements, change management requirements, business rule requirements, and so on and on. Yeah, I'll give you a flash of that, in the BRD, kind of a walkthrough that I'll give you after this finishes. Yeah. Okay. Okay, prototyping. I'm not sure if you want to at least suggest as a solution perspective in your thing. If you think there is worthwhile to build a certain prototype, I don't know. It's normally not easy, guys, to build a prototype for maybe bigger suggestions like a CRM or something, because you can build a prototype for one of the CRM processes, but obviously not for the entire system. It's not possible. CRM is a very, very big process. It's a very big system, right? And it has to be integrated with your backend also. So I don't think, but at least from a suggestion point of view, I'm just giving you some ideas that you can use prototyping as one of your, but only if it fits into your solution. So don't force fit it. Because if you want to depict a certain structure or shape of a solution, at two stakeholders. Now, I know you will actually do a prototype in your real-time projects, but again, as I would like to say, prototyping is definitely much more on the IT side. Obviously, business prototyping is only from a framework. It's only from something which you build on a piece of paper as a framework, and you want to show it to your stakeholders to walk them through and tell them, okay, guys, I'm thinking of a new framework now, which consists of some new SLAs, new monitorings, new process flow itself, new inputs, new outputs, and some kind of a new architecture. So maybe. And by the way, guys, make sure that what I've taught you in terms of business analysis perspectives. Okay. So remember the perspectives were BI, Agile DevOps, Agile, then was your IT, then was business process management, and then was business process architecture. So please see if any of the, of course, IT perspective is obviously getting institutionalized in your solution. So at least one perspective you are using. Business process management is also getting utilized. I will leave it on to you. How do you want to explain that in your BRD, that how am I making use of business process management as a lever to be proposed into the to be solution. So business process architecture, business process management, business intelligence. That I think something which you can use, guys, extensively. Business intelligence in this case will probably relate to a mechanism which you want the IT guys to set up in order to track all the key performance indicators which you are going to bring in for the new things that you are adding to the system. So your to-be system is going to be governed, driven, and operated by certain target points. What are those target points? Against achievement of business objectives and IT objectives. If you want to build that into a reporting dashboard, you may like to make use of business intelligence as one of the perspectives which is used by business analysts, right, for their solutions. Okay, I think there was a query which popped in between. Okay, well, the query is, okay, one query from you guys is, as a business analyst, how do we come to know what new software applications to bring in into solution? Or is it IT guys who will advise us? Obviously, Pankaj, we guys are not gods, obviously, right? One side of the story, we are saying that we have to care for all the business perspectives. And IT is an enabler. So please leave the enabler discussion purely to your IT teams. Okay? They will suggest that the kind of, for example, the interfaces you want to bring in. Now, interface as a suggestion came from you because the simple reason that there was an existing system and you want to plug it on with the new system or any system. So it's all right, guys, they're going to be an interface. Fine. After that, frankly, what does the interface consist of? I mean, I have done like multiple times of design of interfaces by just looking at what does the previous system, what are the different fields, and from those fields, what is the field-to-field mapping I have to create? And then I create a new interface where there is a existing fields are there. I just map the like-minded fields between the two systems into something called and create something called an interface. So interface just helps to, align to people. Like matrimony.com. It's just helping two people to come together for possible prospects of marriage. So matrimony.com is the interface. It helps to, bring people together. Why? Because let's say I am a willing groom, right? And let's say somebody amongst you, hopefully a girl, is a willing bride. Now the bride wants to see certain aspects in her future partner. So does the guy. So we give our requirements to matrimony.com, who establishes that as a attribute pertaining to Mukhraj and pertaining to, let's say, for example, Himangi. Against Himangi's profiling, the suggestive attributes are, okay, what kind of person she needs, and maybe what kind of financial standing, what kind of family background, what kind of this and that and all. That's the fields which Himangi's proposed. And I, as the guy, for example, give my own perspectives, what kind of feature part I'm looking at. So that becomes my field, that becomes Himangi's field. Then they run an engine. They run an analytical engine to put together whose fields are getting matched to the other person in a maximum possible way, right? And that's where they suggest an alliance. So by the way, I'm sure you know that, right? That matrimony.com or any such matrimony facilitators, they run very, very tidy and complex algorithms based analytical systems, because they want to maximize the field to field mapping. So you know what I want? It's there in Himangi, and what Himangi wants is what's probably there in me. So they bring forward as an alliance. So just like that, field to field mapping happens. So I hope that it was a little funny example, but I hope it helped you to clear your understanding on the interface. And yes, coming back to you, Pankaj, it's clearly designed by your IT guys. So IT softwares and applications, you have to leave it on them. And it doesn't happen overnight. What happens is that they also come along with you to understand, obviously the application architecture, okay, that in the total architecture of the client, how many applications are there? Well, there are 1200 applications. Why? 300 are supporting finance processes, 200 are supporting sales processes, 300 are supporting procurement processes. What are these applications? Well, quite a few of them are SAP applications, quite a few of them are Oracle based applications, quite a few of them are .NET, Java, C++ based applications. Okay, but you're telling me the programming or development language of these applications to tell me what they are. Yes, because I just want to differentiate to tell you that the same business process, right, can be supported by multiple applications. That's how it was built in the first place. Yes, I know that there is a mission mash kind of a khichdi around here, where different applications are supporting the same business process, but that happens in a particular business process end to end. So for example, running from sales to deliveries to billings to invoicings to customer service, right? These are 5-7 big components of the one big scenario called order to cash. Now, multiple components. Now, for some clients which are seen, all the components are purely mapped on SAP. So we got only one application, SAP. Within SAP, there are modules, sub-modules, and that has been used to configure that end-to-end process. Good, very simplified landscape, great. But there are so many clients I've seen where ordering process is supported by a different application, delivery process is supported by SAP, goods issue again then starts being supported by some other application, okay, and so on and on. Why does it happen? It happened because that's the way system was built for multiple reasons. So this means that while sales ordering, the first step is supported by a legacy application, but from when it concludes the sales order and confirms it, the data has to flow into ERP, because the logical successor step of sales order is delivery, and delivery is probably configured in SAP. I mean, I'm giving you a little funny example. It doesn't really happen that way, but yeah, there are organizations, I just want to tell you, where different components are mapped and configured in different systems, hence interfacing. So you may land up in a situation where your client will be very clear that this is the level of interfacing which we need to have, because we want to retain the multiple systems which are driven by different applications. Yep. Okay. Where did we go? Okay. So guys, remember, you are progressing well, because with your so-called in the solution map where you are trying to manage the solution scope within the finalized requirements. It's a continual struggle, by the way, yeah, I mean, which the BA has to do. So some point of time, guys, you have to build a business case, because you want to justify the output framework, right? After all, you are delivering a solution. Now, on one side, we are talking a lot of business. On one side, we are talking a lot of IT. And on one side, we are discussing intermediaries like interfaces and blah, blah, blah. Sitting on top of all of this is your business case.
because eventually you will have to justify that all the shake-up that you are going to propose for the system, all the capital expenditure and operating expenditures that you want to recommend and propose because you will buy new softwares, that's capital expenditure, capex. Those softwares will work, right? So there will be annual maintenance charge by those service providers who are running that that software, or maybe from the software provider himself who has the proprietary codes. There will be annual maintenance charges, support charges, etc., etc. So there are operating expenses, or OPEX, or operating expenses are the recurring charges. You have to take a capex and a OPEX, CAPEX. CAP, capital, EX, expenditure, capital expenditure. So for all the equipment, tools, softwares, hardwares, anything that you guys are buying as a resource for Mumbai Communication will go into your capex cost. And after implementations, whatever licenses will remain, which you will need, Mumbai Communication will need, because let's say tomorrow if they pick up a new CRM system and they say that, okay, we have 50 users in our call center who are going to use this new CRM system, so they need 50 licenses, right? So 50 licenses come with a cost. That's a one-time cost. Plus then there are recurring costs, because the licenses attract recurring monthly expenditure or annual expenditure. So that recurring part is going to go into operating expenditure. You need to add up the capex and opex of all the initiatives which you are proposing, which are going to lead to the achievement of business objectives for Mumbai Communication. That is going to be your cost. Capital and operating expenditures is your cost. And against that, guys, you will visualize what are the potential benefits you can bring in. And then somebody said, all right, with this transformation, I think we can hope to achieve another 5% market share in the next 2 years. Now remember, business cases are annual, right? If you're building a business case for next 5 years, then somewhere I would like to see the cost and benefits which you are suggesting you will encounter as a cost and achieve as a benefit year by year. So let's say you propose this as a 1-year program. So in the first 1-year program, all your capital and operating expenditure is your cost, which is very heavy. Till the time you implement this project fully, you are not going to get any benefit. So in the first year, guys, only cost, no benefits, and needless to say, a very heavy negative return on investments. But never mind. These kind of transformation exercises are done keeping in mind the next 5 to 10 to 20 years kind of benefits, right? Now, in the next 2 years, beginning year 2 after the go live, you are saying that we will start making inroads into the, gaining better market share. So in the year 2, your target plan of achieving 1% additional market share. In the year 3, you have a target plan to achieve 2% or 3% additional market share. Now you have to assume that the total Indian market for telecom is, let's say, $100 million. It doesn't matter what you pick up. All matters is that the way you will use these figures to assume that, okay, current market share of Mumbai Communication is 10%. This means at least they are sitting on a $10 million business. But what is Mumbai Communication revenues, right? I think it's a $50 million company. That's its total revenue. So if it's 1,000 million or $1 billion market, so you know that they have about 5% market share. Okay. While making inroads in the year 2 and 3 with 1% and 3% additional market shares, that is going to be the add-on revenues which you will generate as a company. So let's assume that that's all thanks to the fact that transformation that you have done. You have to assume that, because in any case, right now your company performance is very bad, right? So assuming that it's all attributable to the new initiatives, you can gain 1%, which means 1% of 1,000 million as an additional market share, which is about $1 million. Oh no, sorry, it's not million, it's 10 million. Yeah. So make logical assumptions, right? We are sitting on 5%. Obviously, in the next 2 years, you can't get 1 plus 3 like a 4% additional market share, right? Nobody can double its customer base in 2 years. except if somebody's, unless a Geo or something, who comes out with such market destructively positive schemes for the customer, that it knows the art how to draw customers away from others, right? So in the first 6 months, I think I read somewhere that Geo has accumulated about 75 million customers. I don't know whether it's an authentic number, because our total population itself is 120 million. I don't know. Maybe I'll be incorrect. Maybe I'm wrong to say 75 million. But yes, they have garnered a very large chunk percentage of the market share in the first 1 year of their launch, etc. Right. So take valid assumption, get some benefits out, get some added to your revenues, then take a cost benefit analysis for year 2, year 3, etc. Please make sure that you include capital and operating expenditures. Operating expenditures are recurring. This means in year 2, year 3, year 4, you will continue to encounter costs, right, from the OPEX perspective. This is how, guys, you will define your business case. I may show you a template where, one of the students had made an attempt. So I'll show you the format in which you can use to create a business case. And I'll upload all those templates also into the LMS, so that you can, pull them down, use them to create, right thinking, and hence a good BRD. Because you will be very proud, guys, if you make a very detailed and nice and good BRD. And obviously, I'll be able to correct it, enhance it, make it better also. But what will come at the end of it will be like a very detailed and very good BRD, well thought of solution, both from perspective of business and IT, for Mumbai communication. So it will give you a very good, obviously it will give you confidence enough, to appreciate yourself, to say that, okay, within the overall course curriculum, I ended up creating a large BRD, even though it was remote. But yeah, that's where you will cross the bridge. Okay, by the way, guys, if you look at the screen, your business case is going to be dictated by techniques like metrics and KPIs, which you have proposed for all the changes that you want to bring in. You're going to obviously include some SWOT analysis of your competitors. You are going to assume, some risks and how are their mitigation proposed, etc. See, these 4 components are part and parcel of your business case. So it has to be there. So as you can see, guys, you got a tidy piece of work in the next couple of weeks. Okay, any queries, etc., etc., let me know that. Okay. So here we go. Yeah, Pankaj, all the templates, yeah, of course. You will need them, guys, because otherwise, frankly, without that, you won't be able to do a good BRD. But I want all of you to do a very, very good attempt. So templates is fine. In any case, we'll walk it through. Let's go ahead right now where we are. Okay. So by the way, since strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat, SWOT analysis is a very important exercise. I'll just ensure that you have a fair understanding of that. By the way, it's you and your colleague Rajesh who are using SWOT analysis to depict the strength and weakness of Mumbai communication in response to the opportunities and threats that lie ahead. Okay. Okay, so let's say, what are the strengths of Mumbai communication? Frankly, brand recognition, because it's been there in the market for a long time. And it's sitting on a nice and tidy customer database. These are strengths. That's a different matter that the customers are losing. Mumbai communication is losing customers. But anyway, we'll take it up separately. But yes, the two strengths are brand, large, strong brand, and a big customer base. Weaknesses are obviously, guys, attributable to the old systems. So that's a great limitation on the product and service offerings, because it doesn't let you be agile. because being on the old systems, your agility as Mumbai Communication is compromised. That directly impacts your product and service offerings. Number one. Number two, it increases your maintenance cost every year because a lot of effort is required to be spent on those current as is legacy systems, right? And obviously, because it's not contemporary enough a solution, that's why it increases the customer support calls, which means more and more unsatisfied customers keep calling you and keep having queries. Okay, so more or less your systems and resources are devoted to care for the customer, not from a proactive way but from a reactive way. So customer reacts by posing a query that his, let's say, his high-speed internet is not working for 2 days, and then it's like a big problem, etc. So it's all reactive. If Mumbai Communication would have had much more later systems, for example, we talked about the CRM part, right? So front-end CRM systems have a very proactive system and process monitoring cockpit. As I said, CRM system gives you a command center, right? So in the command center, your guys, IT teams can sit and monitor everything. Monitor, you remember we talked about that sensors. So using a combination of sensors to, I think we were talking, oh no, that was a different example. Sorry. So, CRM system, yes, it will offer a very good command center. It's part of the system itself, of the CRM system that you will put into the Mumbai Communication. So the call center guys, the leads at least will be able to see which process is going well, which system is up and running and which is going down, so that they can proactively immediately step into the problem area and give a solution, right? I mean, because Mumbai Communication is our old systems, they are more only reactive. They need to know that the problem has happened in order to get into some rectification and correct it. So it's obviously, guys, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of difference between the new gen systems and the so-called old systems. So weakness, yes, it's like sitting on a very, very old systems and which are very limited. So because of that, we have tremendous amount of situations coming up. Our current resources are totally devoted to take a reactive care of customers. This means they cannot do anything proactive, which means they can't be competitive. Your maintenance costs are more compared to your competition. This means that your bottom line is weaker, because obviously that impacts your process, your profit lines, right? So that's another problem. And since your systems are not capable to support a large chunk of customers large customer database, so well, it affects the services and hence dissatisfaction and hence loss of market share. So all right, so that's where you will begin. So I created a small strength, weakness, opportunity threat table for you. So guys, strength is strong brand recognition, as Mumbai Communication has been in the market for a long time. One of the opportunities is that what new services that you're proposing can be built on top of the existing services. Yeah, so that's an opportunity. Yes, it is. So you have an opportunity now through this project, to build new attributes, new functionalities in order to modify the existing systems, or you can buy new systems altogether. It's an opportunity. So what is another opportunity is that in case you are able to do that as Mumbai Communication, you can offer formidable competition by provisioning for new services backed by strong teams. You have a strong team. It's only what they miss is the I would say processes, which are also actually in place, but yes, they are looking for some new processes and new tools, equipments, etc. to upgrade themselves. But otherwise, you guys can be a formidable player in the market. So all this is strength and opportunities put together. Okay, weaknesses: lack of new gen products, direct competition with players in the market on products and services offerings. It's a direct competition with players who are sitting on better equipment than yours. Okay, and then there are threats. The threats could be that you are proposing a big change, right? So you are proposing a new implementations, etc. Fair enough. Take a year to do that. God forbid if after 1 year when you step out, you realize that your competitors have actually been ahead of you always, 2 steps ahead of you. So if you went to new gen products and equipments and tools and processes and so, they are already plus where you are. Yeah. Or your competitors have been more prudent in terms of cost perspective. This means the cost structures of your competitors are still lower than yours. In that case, there will be a continued state of being non-competitive. One of the threats, guys, is that while you're moving from an old system to a new system, right? It's a transition. During the transition, where most of your current system may get decommissioned, at least from a hardware perspective, and you move to a new system, which could be hardware and software both, you may lose customers in between because you won't be able to service them so effectively. In any case, our customers are not happy today. And even if we make this transition, during the transition of Mumbai communications, the customer satisfaction will get impacted even more. Right? So that's a threat. Which means, guys, you have to design your strategy keeping in mind what are the likely threats coming up in the future. Okay? And what else? Yeah, some of the additional threats are, guys, that I think one of the suggestions which I flashed, right, that why don't we move into cable business as well? Because it's extremely compatible with high-speed internet. So let's start providing cable networks to our customers as well. And we can make it a very, very flexible pricing. We can make it pay-per-use option. Yeah. But the fact is, guys, that eventually you are new to cable business. So don't forget that from a SWOT analysis, I mean, there are, that, right? In cabling business, we have more smaller guys than larger guys. And smaller guys are able to provide a very effective customer service to its local customers. So local players, small players in cable business have divided the territory amongst the cities, etc., amongst themselves. Yeah, and then they are able to service the customers very well accordingly. So you are new to cable business, and there are a lot of people who are sitting there. Yep. This another very big threat which I see, guys, frankly, on the people front, is that you will have to make some cultural adjustments in the company. See, please appreciate that your current employee mix, will have to be shaken up. Because in order to acclimatize and be culturally compatible with, all the new gen products that you will have, just the products and infrastructure will not help. The new team of Mumbai Communication must have that can do, will do kind of an attitude, right? If they want to achieve the business objective which we are trying to accomplish in our case studies. This means your people aspect has to be. I think okay. So give me a break. Sorry, guys. Devi is not able to hear me. Is it only Devi or anybody else is also affected? So guys, let me know if you guys can hear me. Okay, Sudeep can hear. Okay, good. Danish can hear. Okay, so I will write to Devi. Please re-log in. Okay, yeah. Sorry, there were a couple of queries here. Yeah, so Pankaj, you know what? I will not get into emailing of all those templates. There's a central portal LMS. It's actually uploaded there, I think. There is some folder called templates. So if you guys can access that, that'll be great. Otherwise, I'll do one thing. I'll tell Kezia to upload that all in a particular folder and send you a link. Then you guys can download, okay? Okay, another query was why SWOT analysis here as we can do root cause analysis as well. So Pankaj, root cause analysis is strictly for an established identified problem. You do root cause because you want to get into detailing to find its solution. So root cause is not equivalent, certainly not equivalent to SWOT, because SWOT is a technique more done from a business case perspective in which you are exploring strengths of Mumbai communication, weaknesses of Mumbai communication, opportunities for Mumbai communication, and threats to Mumbai communication. You are taking a 360-degree viewpoint from a current perspective to the end stage of the 2B. So you're thinking 2 years, 3 years, 5 years ahead. That's something which root cause analysis can't do. Root cause analysis says, okay, we have a problem, as I heard from one of the stakeholders. Let's get into the root of it. It's like a deep dive to establish a particular what exactly is the problem statement, and hence, so that you guys can find a solution. Yeah, so it's more from that idea. Okay. Yeah, so we were talking people aspect, guys. Okay, by the way, remember when you are with your clients in the coming future as BAs, please ensure that you're talking people a lot of times. Okay, because I'll tell you what, most of the stakeholders have a very firm belief that we as BAs come and mostly talk about process and tools. Okay, and so generally they believe that we are into their landscape more from a quick fix solution. So in case you don't want to have that perception, please keep people ahead of all that. And what does that mean? That how we will make sure that while we bring in process and equipments and tool changes and solution aspects, how we will ensure that your people, which is the client people, how they get adjusted culturally and technically to the new to be design. So we will train them. We will right from this, of course, right from the beginning, we will keep them along as BA, from a requirement perspective, from a solution build perspective, to make them shadow the my IT teams, on the IT component solution perspective, and blah blah blah. So keep people high on your priority list. Yeah, even if you believe or you don't believe in that situation, but please keep people perspective the highest. Okay, and for that, a golden rule is the moment you meet your clients, first opening statement should be, guys, I'm a business analyst who believes in making changes to people, process, and tools in that descending order of hierarchy. So please make your intentions very clear that you keep people perspective as the highest perspective. Okay, though the fact is that most of the changes in the to be design will be done on process or on tools or equipment or software, etc. But the fact is, obviously, guys, the consumer of all that is only people. Hence, you need to provision a margin, a thought, and a game plan for training and acclimatizing clients' people onto the new part of the story. Okay, good. That's what for you. Okay. So you remember, guys, we did a couple of slides where we brought out some high level requirements from a business perspective, right? Which I think 4 slides, 3 slides, etc. Now this is a continuation of the same. So look at that, look at this and see that whether this is also matching with your thought process about fulfilling the capability gap that as of today exists in Mumbai communication. Okay, so take a minute to think about it. Give me a couple of comments. Yeah. Okay. All right. This was one. And let's go ahead. Okay, perfect. So guys, let's keep moving forward into the business case part, right? Which we started some time back. So yourself and Rajesh are working closely together to establish the business case because you need approvals, you need funding for the solution, etc. Right? So during the creation of business case, what did you do? What did you consider, guys? Yeah. So four key components of building up a business case. Obviously costs, obviously risks. I'm sorry, uh, benefits. But benefits are going to be forecasted, right? Because you're not going to get the benefits till the time you put the new system in place, right? So cost and forecasted benefits, part one. This is the left and right hand side. And top and bottom is constituted by risks and assumptions slash challenges. So even though costs and benefits are the left and right hands of a business case, obviously there is a top and a bottom end. And the top end is basically the risks. So cap, within the cap, the hat on the head, within the hat of risks that your solution will wear, you have to check what are the costs and what are the benefits, while the fact is that underlying there are certain assumptions and constraints with which you have to build your solution. So how do I see the slide? I would like to say one statement about this slide, which says within the underlying assumption and challenges and the overlying hat of risks, please consider the incurred costs and forecasted benefits to come out with a business case for your client. Does that sound okay? To show an overall assessment in terms of whether your business case is positive or not positive, which means your benefits, forecasted benefits dollar value exceed your costs dollar value. But you just can't a dollar to dollar mapping or a comparison unless you have supplemented your business case with what are the risks, how did you mitigate, what are likely going to the risk, is there any mitigation plan for the same? Because if there's a live, throbbing, strong risk today, tomorrow, or day after, and within that, if you want to just shut your eyes not and choose to ignore it while you build your business case, it won't be accepted. So make sure that you build the business case and flank it with the overriding components called risk and assumption challenges. Okay, going into some details, guys, of business case. As I said, the decision to move forward for funding the project, etc., is not going to be only based on the dollar value. Yeah. Uh, Obviously, because quantitative analysis could be fictitious. So no business sponsor will put $1 million at stake only by looking at what is the perceived value of the forecasted benefits. It's too risky. It's too much of a forecast. It's too much of an assumption. So what really helps you to convince them that it's a good business case, even if the return on investment doesn't look too good. Yeah. So they will obviously allow you, enough time to explain your business case. But I want to upfront tell you guys what are the key components of business case which every stakeholder, especially the senior guys, want to look at in order to give you a go, no go decision. Yeah. One is, of course, the estimation approach, which means how did you predict the timeline needed to do this project, the cost needed to do this project, and the effort required. Essentially, nothing too much, but part and parcel of your project mainline components of schedule, time, and effort. Oh, I'm sorry, schedule is time itself. About schedule, effort, and budget. So they would like to see that. And obviously, I agree with you. That's hell of a lot of detailing. But obviously, who would like to get into hell of a lot of detailing without, you'll need that details in order to approve a budget of about like a couple of 100,000, right? So everybody will do that. So make sure that you are rightly in the prep mode. Okay. So after analyzing that, the estimation approach that you took to estimate each requirement, okay, and then cumulate all that effort, multiply that with the dollar term of the labor cost, you came to a cost perspective for the project. That was the labor cost. The non-labor cost included all the capital expenditures, right, and all the operating expenditures. Okay, so you mixed up all that together and you gave the the overall costing part one. Second, how did you estimate that how much time will your IT team or business teams will require to accomplish this whole project? That's the schedule part. Most of the stakeholders are very sensitive about schedule. They want to really see that how the project is going live as per the plan. So they would like to see that how you have mapped the total effort required to build the solution components by your teams and converging that with the overall project plan where there is a predictable go live date. Third thing is effort. Effort is that, okay, there is a requirement which is pretty much having IT orientation, so it needs to go through the SDLC. Yeah, okay. So after I finalize the requirements in my BRD, what is the total effort required by the IT team to, number one, write the design specification. Number two, to write the functional specification. Number three, to write the technical specification and then do the programming. Number four, doing testing, 3, 4, 5 times of the types of testing as required in the project. Effort number 6, deploying the functionality into the production system and making it go live. So there are 6, 7 effort components which you must show them, which you have used to total up the effort which is required to build their solution. So effort is going to be, guys, in man days, cost is going to be in dollars, and time is going to be in months or years. So this is the 3 fundamental aspects they want to understand from you to take a beginning of a judgment that your approach has been correct. Because it's your approach which leads eventually to how much time you will require to complete this project, how much cost will be required, okay, and that is from the costing perspective. Second, very important component of the lever used by stakeholders to take a decision about your business case. The second most important lever is metrics and KPIs. So they want to see that what are the metrics that you have employed to track the efficiency of your solution build up. Let me give you an example. So you say, okay, in the solution build up, there's a lot of technical development and testing. Fair enough. The accompanying target point is that the defect density of my object developments for the requisite software will not be more than, let's say, 1%. Which means that if I develop 100 technical objects for my solution, 99 will pass all testings, etc. Only 1 will not. That's the margin which I have to monitor and control the efficiency of my actual development build-up process for the solution software. By the way, 1% is too high. I just took an example. If you really ask me, it is not more than 0.3%. which means if my IT team develops 1,000 objects in IT, which could be like, let's say 100 interfaces, 100 conversions, 100 reports, 200 forms, those kind of things. If I develop 1,000 objects, not more than 3 will fail. Yeah, 997 will pass out. That is the performance indicator which they want to see in your project to feel confident that the team has set up a very high, good, ambitious targets. Because see, when is the business case approved? Once you finalize requirements, put it into your BRD, develop a good detailed business case, and just go and hit your stakeholders. Present your business case. If it is approved, they approve the whole thing, give a proper budgetary allocations, and then your BRD gets down to your IT teams and other teams to start doing the build up from component to component, software to software, hardware to hardware, and such perspectives. Yeah. So obviously it is before the BRD. So it's before in the sense that your BRD recognition depends on your business case approval. So frankly, by the time your BRD is pretty much ready, so is your business case. It's pretty much in parallel. You get your business case approved, your BRD is also approved. And then the development journey starts, the software development life cycle. Okay. All right. So approving a business case, I have to be sure that the metrics and which you have chosen for your software development are pretty much good. Okay. All right. Third very important thing is, guys, risk analysis. So as I said, you will have to do a SWOT analysis. You have to do an operational, non-operational, any kind of risk which can emerge in the project from resources, from technology, from process side, from tooling side, software, hardware, equipment side, anything, any risk which is there. You obviously, in any case, guys, they are very clever people. What happens is that every week when you have the project update meeting, the half time, 50% of the time of such weekly update meeting goes to discuss risks only. So in any case, they would have reviewed all the risks before you reach the last stage of business case. Yeah, but still, I mean, they would like to see what are the business risks which have been identified. What are the action plans which have already been thought to kill some risks, and the risks which cannot be killed. What is your plan? That how we will live with them without encountering any negative impact on ourselves. Yeah, so they would like to see all that. The next one is SWOT. So needless to say, they would like to see that whether you have thoroughly accomplished a SWOT analysis. Because what they may not have been able to provision, you should have been able to provision for the same by doing a detailed SWOT analysis and coming to a conclusion that what is good, bad, ugly about this whole thing. Yeah, so it just gives you additional factors to consider, to clearly foresee that what is that you are missing from a capability gap, and hence you are building up in your to-be solution because that gap needs to be fulfilled. Okay. All right. And the last one is, guys, vendor assessment. So I wanted to bring you, this point because I didn't see any queries from any of you regarding that. So I thought it will be important for me to broach this topic with you guys because, see, guys, gone are the days where there used to be only two people. One, the client, the other one, the service provider, like, let's say, TCS, Wipro, etc., etc. Now, there is lots of different vendors which have come into the play. And the reason has the migration route for them to come into this play was again due to software. So, a lot of custom softwares. Like you talk about SAP, right? So SAP is like the world's largest ERP organization. It has a software called SAP, which is totally used for configuration of your business processes. Yeah, and then you can use them to conduct your transaction. Now, this is a very large software, and a vanilla software is something which SAP builds and then sells to clients by, for making them purchase licenses from them. Okay, now this is the large software. For smaller softwares, there is not, what happens is that there is always a small custom development which happens. So for the custom development that is done, and then the software is customized, the vanilla software is customized to give a better output. That's something that a lot of vendors have been doing. Smaller vendors, boutique firms, who have developed their own softwares, which can bring you, the results pretty quickly, actually, to be honest. So they don't have the capability to develop an end-to-end software, but for select business processes in between, they've been able to develop. And hence, most of the clients which you can see today, guys, have lots of vendors. This means for your to-be solution, you will have to likely procure some custom software externally, which means that you will have to select a good vendor who is able to provide you guys with that. Since you are the implementation partner with Mumbai Communication, but Mumbai Communication completely relies on you to assess the external vendors. Let's say they need a certain custom software. There are 3 vendors in the market who provide the same. They will rely on you as their service provider to make that assessment, get out the recommendations, and propose to them. That means Mumbai Communication, that which software is the best and why. Yeah, so which software is the best looking at the client's conditions. That is why, guys, the value add from your side comes in. You are able to address those gaps by checking which is the most effective, this thing, software for the client solution, number one. Second thing is that why it is the best. Yeah, even though it may not be the most popular, but still, why is that which you're recommending for the client? So that due diligence, they will leave it on to you. So again, why am I saying that? Revert back, guys, to the business case. That is because to approve the business case, they should know. Now, how did you do vendor assessment? Which vendor did you choose and why? What is the cost impact which the solution is getting from a vendor perspective? Because the vendor is going to sell licenses for their custom softwares, right? And you got to buy that out because you as a service provider are not developing that. You're getting it done from an external party. If you're getting it all done in-house with your IT team, then it's great. If not, vendor assessment will be one of the key components for your business case justification. So anyway, if you have duly considered all those 7-8 parameters that I listed in the previous slide, then guys, you will come out with a good business case. Don't worry if it is not looking very positive, which means that maybe the return on investment monthly is probably in the return of 10, 12, 15%. But don't worry too much, because there's going to be an ample discussion on the business case, and likely the business stakeholders will get into the nitty-gritties to see whether, what could be a little more realistic business case, which might go towards an increased percentage saving. In any case, guys, it's an important document which needs approval. Once approval is done, then the additional funding comes in, and also some critical details from the proposed solution come up. So it's a well done, worthy exercise which you should be doing for each of your projects. So please clear your mind and hands both by making a detailed business case for Mumbai Communication. So whatever mistakes you may do, may or may not do, I'll be able to at least correct that out, so that your fundamentals about business case, build-ups are clear. So then all what matters will be that, okay, the capex opex will change for a real-time projects which you guys will do, in the coming times. So that's okay, because you know the format, you know which way I need to explore those 7-8 big parameters to build a business case. And obviously, if you're considering much more than just cost and benefit, then obviously, that's something which will be very impressive, and the clients will give a more ready recognition to what you have bought in front of them. Okay. All right. Hey, I didn't see queries till now. Are there any queries? Okay. So guys, some folks are proposing maybe a 5 to 10 minute kind of a break. So yeah, we can do that. I think, yeah, let's take a bio break. Maybe just 5 to 7 minutes, guys. Come back and then maybe let's do the next about half an hour or something, and then we can conclude the session. Okay. Good with all of you guys? Okay, good. So let's take a bio break and come back, guys. Fair enough. Hey guys, let's quickly come back and finish maybe, at least this key topic so that, from next Saturday we are ready to step into the templates as well. Yeah. So are we all back, guys? Are we good? Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. So thank you guys. Looking at the screen right away. Where are we? Now, see, obviously, you would have pretty much understood and you should be, I think, now able to appreciate the methodical aspects of business analysis approach. Every step obviously is defined extremely sequentially. For example, till the time you're doing the, your of course, your requirement chapter is the overlapping. While you started doing requirement elicitation, if you realize that you have also configured your solution scope, right? You've also built your business case. And while your elicitation continues, you're now stepping into the step which is as important as elicitation requirement, and that's called prioritizing requirements. Yeah. So you remember we did a elicitation technique called backlog management, right? And there, when you asked me where did backlog come from, so I suggested that in the preceding chapter, in the preceding initiative which would have happened, probably the BA prioritize requirements and then he take forward some of the chosen ones for various reasons, and he left behind certain requirements which he did not take into the development last time. So whatever is spills over from the previous run of initiatives keeps getting collected in form of a backlog, as the name suggests. And that is exactly what is responsible to again give you requirements for the initiative that you're kicking off now. So the requirements that you are generating now, obviously backlog management becomes a potentially, kind of a fertile territory from where you can pick and choose requirements because they were already been discussed, validated and approved as well. It is just that in the last development cycle of project, it did not go forward into the realization because it was not that important. So business reasons forced you to choose other requirements over and above these ones, right? So that is what basically I say is the job of requirement, a prioritization of requirement. So you prioritize to see that from the latest situation, which of the requirements are more suitable than others, and hence deserve to be part of the solution scope. Now, in this way, what somebody of you might ask me that this means we are sitting on excess requirements, which is truly the case because remember when you remember, I mean, it's a little dynamic, guys. You sat with order to cash SMEs, you sat with business intelligence SMEs, you sat with financial SMEs. They all gave you the requirements. That time, while you discuss requirements, they are primarily based on the inputs of existing pain points and how do we improve effectiveness. Now, that is not a binding factor. Obviously, that gives rise to multiple gap analysis, which you take forward and create requirements out of them. By the time you are not yet quantifying that which are the requirements which will get adjusted in the current solution scope and which one won't be. You do that only when you reach prioritization state. Prioritization, of course, is based on some key inputs parameters with respect to the latest need from business, yeah, and which is obviously with respect to competitiveness, pricing, market shares, etc., whatever, purely business attributes, right? You don't prioritize requirements from purely from IT attributes. For example, one requirement is easier to be done than other, and hence you will choose that up. No, that's not the case. Okay. So what are your inputs for prioritizing requirement, guys? Till now, what you have accomplished the business case, right? And remember that in business case, you chose certain key requirements and did cost benefit analysis, or actually you did for all of them, right? But you will keep them as your reference point because you did cost benefit analysis, take into
point of view, about 20 odd, for example, requirements. But the fact is that you need all of that organically. You need all of those 20 requirements to now start prioritizing on top of them. Yeah. So you need your business case. You obviously need to vet what is the latest business need and hence what requirements should be going in. Okay. And then you talk about your stakeholders, their priorities, their roles and responsibilities. So they are also responsible to help you prioritize the same. Fair enough. So whatever inputs came to you via business case, latest business needs, stakeholders, latest point of view, requirements, etc., you prioritize them in descending order of hierarchy, which means the most prioritized requirements comes right at the top. And that is where I would say you are now organizing your requirements. So that's an output expected from this exercise. Yep. And while you prioritize your requirements, obviously, it's needless to say, it's differently based on certain decision analysis. And decision analysis, guys, refers to all those discussions which we did, suggesting that which requirements are more important for business needs because of various reasons, etc., etc. That's all part of your decision analysis. And then, last but not the least, you need to keep the risk part around you all the time as a decision maker. So guys, you have to appreciate the significance of risk. Risk analysis is the key to the whole thing. It is, if you realize, it's reflecting everywhere, whether it is requirements build up, whether it is business case build up, whether it is enterprise analysis, your risk analysis is figuring supreme all over the place. Okay, so that's something which you may like to keep it in mind, and hence probably try to read a little more about risk analysis from the journal in material which may be available on net, so that you're completely savvy and familiar with the risk part. Even though we have covered it quite well in our curriculum, but if somebody amongst you is more interested to know about this larger aspect, which is very, very crucially important, driving the whole things, I will suggest please go ahead and do a more exploratory due diligence on risk analysis. How is this done? What are the various techniques which are used to do it? So whatever you learned here is enough from a curriculum perspective, but I really wouldn't mind if you guys can go ahead and, for your interest, probably read more about it. Okay. All right. So yeah. So this is how, guys, an input and a processing using certain techniques leads to an output. Now, if you've seen, we have used that as a solution approach right from the beginning till the end for our Mumbai communication case study. Yeah. And this is what I say is a approach. So maybe you will probably use the same approach for your actual projects tomorrow, but it may differ a bit because it tend to get more dynamic, getting influenced by the dynamisms of your projects and its stakeholders. Otherwise, frankly, your original approach of business analysis, planning, estimation, organizing effort, and then using elicitation techniques, and in between doing an enterprise analysis, focusing on key components like risk, assumption, constraints, blah, blah, blah. Their list is endless. Right? So anyway, this is the approach. This is what I wanted you to understand in absolute complete toto, so that you can superimpose this approach to any project that you do tomorrow. That has been the game plan of grooming you up, guys, in this methodology, etc. Yep. Okay. Good. So that's where we are, guys, now. This is good. Prioritize requirements is fine. So let's go forward. Okay, we come to the last part of your solution approach, guys, and that is called assess the proposed solution. So, okay, so now you're pretty much complete, right? You have arrived at that situation where now you can propose the complete solution, tasks, etc., etc. For all the analysis that you've done, in accordance with the stakeholder requirements. So you've done all that, and now you're bringing it forward as your solution. Okay,
Proposed solution, guys, can be depicted on the slide like the way you're looking at it now. What are the inputs? Your assumptions and constraints. Prioritize requirement, which is the net output from your entire requirement exercise. Okay. And of course, which has been now approved also. And the other component is solution options. Now, guys, your expertise of your IT team starts coming in. All the high-level solutions, options that they have proposed. And obviously, you have considered that also in your business case from a cost-benefit perspective, right? So actually, the IT team was able to suggest you options, some time back, and obviously you use those options to do a bounce up with your stakeholders because you wanted to be sure, which option of solution they want to take. You remember yesterday we discussed that it's not your call. It's a purely business call, and let them take their calls themselves. If they are not taking a business call on taking a decision of which solution option to use, of course you can enable and help. Yeah, you can push them, expedite them, make them think better by enabling with multiple options, etc., 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 with decreasing order of complexity and criticality and etc., whichever way you want it. But the fact is, you have to get a decision out of their mouth. Okay, so that's the input. And again, guys, at this stage of the project, the only two techniques which work is overall decision analysis, which you did with your stakeholders, and risk analysis. And as an output, guys, your proposed solution is now nothing but simple allocation of now requirements which are completely finalized and approved. And now you can simply allocate the requirements to different stakeholders, which has been already discussed and decided. That's the net outcome which you now have come out with by allocating, let's say, X, Y, Z number of requirements to different departments, different stakeholders. They are all in sync with it. They have approved it already. You have picked up all the requirements as a combined package and proposed multiple solution options. The business case is already done and dusted. They have approved that case. Obviously, while approving the business case, they were able to pre-select very carefully what are the solution options which they think should work, and hence the return of investment which you have been able to calculate is totally based on those solution options. Yeah, so you are onto a defined path. It's identified, and the so-called haze gets cleared now. But you realize, guys, it takes quite an effort, diligent persistence, and very, very patient exercise on the BA's part to reach this point of arrival where now they can start breathing easy, because now you have been able to at least bring out the due output which was expected from your side. Okay, great. So where are we, guys? So you and Rajesh are working with stakeholders to review the proposed solutions. Some activities like that is going on to clearly justify what is the latest alignment and how the solution requirements are built up. Okay, so just a sample slide for you. So there have been discussions now on getting into TV businesses. There's certain calls being taken to get out of certain facets of phone business. So the required solution now seems to be very good to give the required agility, the speed for the internet and cellular product offerings. So all that has been made stronger, better. Yeah. So you and Rajesh have been actually lately facilitating the ranking of solution options for the stakeholders. So remember the multiple solution options that you brought forward? You've been able to rank that in descending out of hierarchy based on the inputs from stakeholders, right? So you also know which is the most preferred solution and why, which has been approved by stakeholders, right? Now you're at the last leg of the things. You're identifying the key strengths the organization might want to include in the solution, anything which is left out. Obviously, you covered it up from a resource, from process, from tools and people perspective. But just in case something is left out, you might like to still do a bounce off with stakeholders. Okay. Important point is, guys, that your assumptions and challenges have been all accepted. The acceptance criteria, evaluation criteria of your entire project has been accepted, right? Because that was done during your business case approval, by the way. Yeah. So all that is good. I think you have done a good job. You've reached at this stage now while continuously working with your stakeholders. In a nutshell, guys, you as a business analyst, focus now on allocating the stakeholders, right, their required requirement, which is not totally accepted. In a nutshell, guys, you are aligned because you have prioritized and you have gotten the requirements approved. You've gotten the alignment on solution scope. You have the alignment on design solution now. Okay. And obviously you use pretty much multiple things to reach here. But now your order is now clear. With what we will start implementation with IT teams. What are going to be the topmost priorities? What is the solution build up? How much time, effort, energy is going to be taking by SDLC, by different phases, which is design, build, test, deployment. You exactly have now calculated when the project is going live, barring any exigency. I think that should hold true. Yeah, you guys have probably come to a clear conclusion that yeah, that fiber optics probably is the most evaluated new product implementation you want to do from connectivity side. You guys have clearly thought and approved the updations of the call centers using this new CRM product. Yeah, very important and never to miss, guys. You've already assessed the organizational readiness. Yeah, you assess the organizational readiness to see cultural compatibility of their people. So you have assessed that. You have made plans now how you will enhance their effectiveness by involving the key users during development and testing phase. Okay, so all that is also part of the plan, and your business is pretty much ready to accept that also. Okay, all right. I think I just want to look at some queries here before the session ends. Okay, so I think Pankaj will talk about that a bit later, right? When we reach at least our interview preparation stage, I think there me and you can have a conversation on this, right? Okay. All right. So, all right. So organizational readiness. This is, guys, more from a change management perspective. Okay. So you have communicated the effects of the solution, typically on people. Obviously, you have communicated it on form of a process change, but that directly relates to people, right? And again, guys, for a change management regarding the so-called transition which you want them to do, right? Your inputs are, your enterprise architecture, what it was, what is going to be now, what is the solution scope, what is the designing part, and then you've used some techniques like data flow diagrams, process modeling, organization modeling, risk analysis, again to assess how ready, not ready is the maturity index of by communication in order to move into the so-called new solution. New solution, which is new process, modification of processes, new equipments, new hardware, softwares, new transformation exercises which have been achieved, and hence a new thought process on people who are ready to implement the same thing and get acclimatized to run it as part of the day-to-day business. So, guys, you have been working on the organizational readiness also by taking feedback from users. You administer them certain questionnaires, certain surveys. This is very important, guys, for your end users who will eventually use the new services of Mumbai Communications. Okay, so make sure their comfort is taken care of. Okay, just a few minutes on transition requirements, guys. Is basically you're transitioning them from an earlier system to a new system, right? So please work. So Rajesh and yourself have been working with stakeholders such as internet managers, telephone managers, call center managers to compare the state of the organization, what it was earlier in the past, what it is going, what it is today, and what it is going to be after the transformation tomorrow. So past, present, and future are all evaluated carefully so as to give them a complete heads up that what is their viewpoint which they want to propose, by the way, in order to transition their people from present into future. So these transition requirements, guys, is obviously driven by the same criteria. What is going to be your new process modeling? What are going to be the new data flow diagrams? How the performance business is going to be monitored and controlled. What is the rules which we are going to do that. So you build up all that in the 2B solution. Remember, you have a lot of requirements from the business rules perspective. You have built all that, but now you're just making sure that that gets overlapped and understood by people as well. Okay. So these are, guys, certain things which you will probably do from a transition state perspective, because that's, remember, we are unfortunately doing it towards the end. But if you guys have any query, we will definitely have a bit of more discussion, because this phase is also very important, because otherwise, you know what I mean, right? You have done such a beautiful exercise to create such a detailed solution, but unfortunately it fails because you fail to assess the organizational readiness to incorporate that solution into the landscape. Yep. So, but anyway, I think this is something which you have understood, being experienced professionals. I think I don't have to overstate this, that how transition related requirements with respect to organizational readiness is going to be of key importance. Yeah. Okay, guys. So great. We got 1 minute left. So, guys, next weekend is going to be on templates. Okay, at least for 1 day, and plus I'll take care of your queries. That is Saturday. Sunday, we're going to step into. So then, guys, I mean, by the time your stakeholder calls would have had happened, and then I will leave you, to yourself to build up your BRD in the next 2-3 weeks, and then probably send it to me so that I can completely iterate it and see that if it is good, bad, ugly, and then build it up, etc., etc. Plus, on the weekends which are coming and next, maybe we'll continue doing now, probably step into interview preparations, etc., etc., so that at the end of the road, we are quite clear on how we are. So anyway, if we are good, guys, then enjoy the rest of the Sunday evening, and we will meet next Saturday and understand our templates. Okay. So I'll probably say goodbye to you guys. It has been a long evening for me as well. Yeah, and yep. So let's go ahead and enjoy ourselves. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.